More and more people ask me some version of how do I come up with my ideas? How do I come up with an interesting or beautiful image? Where does this stuff come from? I've been thinking about this, and I may be wrong, but I think the real question they're asking is, how do I overcome overthinking? How do I get out of my own way to let ideas emerge? So overthinking is basically a byproduct of fear and self-doubt, and it gets in the way of any creative process. It holds us back from what we are capable of doing. I truly believe that we all have it within us to do something amazing, to create something beautiful. I think a lot of times we just have a hard time getting started, or we have a hard time believing in the process. We worry about how something might turn out, or if it's a good idea or not, or if it's already been done, and on and on and on. I know this because I've been there. I worry about the same things. So having said all that, I think we just have to find a way to do the work. And the first part of that is to get out of our own way. These days I feel like I have a million ideas and just not enough time. And like I said, that wasn't always the case. So in this video, I'm going to reflect on all the paintings I've done in the past year. I'm going to share as much as I can quickly about my thought processes. Selfishly, this reflection helps me have a better understanding of, where I'm coming from, where I'm headed, what's working, what's not working. Hopefully it will help you also on your own creative journey. So let's get started. So at the beginning of 2022, I wanted to focus on just painting abstract faces. It's a general concept that I've been evolving over the past 20 years. Back in the early 2000s, I was just doodling on a blank page, letting my mind wander and seeing what would come from my subconscious. At the time, my grandfather happened to be suffering from Alzheimer's, and these fractured faces just started emerging in my drawings. I was really intrigued by these images, and they were actually helping me cope with the situation. And I just kept playing with them over the years. Once I have an idea like that, I will revisit it, recycle it, repurpose it from time to time, and just evolve it as long as it holds my interest. So in this case, I just kept a few simple words in my mind, like spies and deception and intrigue, and had this idea of an open marketplace, like a bazaar. And I just loosely held on to these words as I started to paint. I was also inspired by some colors that I'd seen recently in some antique rugs at a friend of mine's showroom. And I just took these colors from these antique Persian rugs and started working them into the pieces. As I was working on these, I started to wonder, how can I just push them beyond being aesthetically pleasing to embody more content and emotion? So this led me to the idea of adding objects and animals and even words on top of and into these interconnected faces. The whole time I was inspired by the colors that I was finding in these antique rugs. And this one particular palette reminded me of a warm, exotic location in Belize that I had vacationed many years ago. So without much thought, I just started to sketch and paint with the simple goal of adding in some new imagery other than faces and trying to capture a feeling of that place and time. So as I was working on all these paintings, I was just having fun. I also wanted to create smaller elements because a lot of the paintings I had been doing had much larger interconnected faces, and I wanted to try to pack more into the painting. I wanted to use a teal color because that was one of my favorite colors growing up, and I'd never painted one of these paintings using that palette before. So I just packed this painting with individual images representing these moments that had an impact on me in some meaningful way. Around this time, I got into my first real gallery, the Rec Gallery in Tucker, Georgia. It was super exciting, it still is, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. Talking to the gallery owner, we both decided that it might make sense for me to make some smaller pieces to go along with the larger ones. The idea there was just simply to offer more art at different price levels. And again, with these pieces, I just had a single word or phrase in my mind, and I just started to paint them intuitively, sort of relying on all the lessons that I've learned in the past about painting abstract interconnected faces. One of these in particular, I painted around the time that Marshall Arisman had passed away, and so I was thinking of him when I made it. Shortly after this, I got an opportunity to create a piece for a community public art project called Look Up Decatur. This is an event that I've participated in over the years, and it's organized by a good friend of mine and fellow artist, Larry Holland. So, keeping with the theme, I wanted to just keep pushing forward with this interconnected concept. Knowing that this art was going to be displayed publicly outdoors, I wanted to paint something that would grab people's attention, right, as they were passing by. And I'd already been thinking about experimenting with breaking the flat plane of my paintings and introducing something on top of these abstract backgrounds. I've been very intrigued by the art of Greg Simpkins. I got the idea from his work to add some bugs on top of my usual painting style. And I also just want to improve my ability to paint insects and also gold objects. So I combined all these thoughts into this one piece. And again, the background is filled with images and stories that are related to my life experiences. And then the top layer is just these golden bugs that are sort of examining my life and represent this idea of rebirth and renewal. And right after that, I made another painting very similar in style, just using a single blue ladybug. Again, trying to practice painting insects, trying to do something different, a single bug instead of 2 or 3 objects. And again, it was mainly for practice. From there, I moved on to another larger piece, following the same concept, this abstract interconnected background with realistic objects on top. And having everything in the painting essentially represent something that's close to my heart or meaningful to me. So here in Atlanta, we have a community art project called Free Art Friday, where local artists make small pieces of art and hide them around the city. We then post a photo to Instagram with a hint of where the art is located, and it becomes a bit of a scavenger hunt. Whoever finds the art first gets to keep it for free. So I see Free Art Friday as a fun thing to participate in. It makes me happy when a piece of art brings joy to someone. But I also see it as an opportunity to experiment with my own art. So this year I've been trying to take the abstract faces concept and try new things, new colors, new styles, or just paint something entirely new. So for instance, eyes, just because I want to get better at painting eyes, and I plan to continue to use them in my paintings in the future. And you'll see some of that in some of the painting examples that come later. Now, I haven't really talked about inspiration very much, but it does happen that sometimes I get completely inspired by something and just have to make a painting. And this was the case this year with this Pearls and Butterflies painting. I got an opportunity to witness some nurses taking care of patients in a local hospital over the course of 3 days. Up close and personal, seeing just how much care and discipline they have, and professionalism in their jobs. And I sort of had this moment where I envisioned these butterflies either carrying these pearls or coming to visit these pearls in the sky. And I decided to make a painting of that image that was in my mind and give it to the hospital to put on display for the nurses there. So as far as where the idea came from, I really don't know. I really feel like there were some butterfly paintings in the hospital, and I sort of have this affinity for pearls, and so I think the two ideas just kind of merged. I did go into Photoshop, take a bunch of photographs that I have of butterflies that I've taken in my own yard, and kind of play around with the layout, and just from there use my own intuition and skills to try to do my best job of painting this painting that was in my mind. Similar to the butterflies, there just are times where I get inspired to just make something interesting, or something just pops in my head and says, hey, you should make a painting of that. And that was the case with this crazy landscape here. I just had a moment where I wanted to pay homage to and sort of create something as a token of appreciation for a coworker of mine who had really supported me over the years. And so this painting won't mean much to anyone unless they are on the team that we were working on together. And it's just essentially a crazy inside joke, just packed with imagery and symbols and moments that we've shared. And it was another opportunity for me to try something different, experiment, and go sort of outside of my comfort zone and create something that was fun and hopefully will bring joy to someone else. So next is a piece of fan art that I did that was inspired by a piece of fan art that was done by a buddy of mine. So the art on the left is an illustration done by my friend Matt, and on the right is my version of that illustration. I'd never even seen the show. I saw Matt's illustration. I started watching the show with my kids and fell in love with it. And then I decided I wanted to do my own version in my style. And I reached out to Matt and got his permission to use his artwork as a basis for my piece. So I guess you could say this was a paint this in your own style challenge, and that kind of leads me to some paint this in your own style challenges that I participated in this year. In these cases, you don't have to come up with an idea from scratch. You're actually given a subject and you just have to try to interpret it in your own style as best you can. I think this is a great way to learn and grow as an artist, especially when you start to see how all the other artists interpret the same subject matter. Similar to those art challenges with commissions, I'm given subject matter to start from. In a lot of cases, I even have photographic reference. Each one, I just try to make something that captures a feeling that the client is looking for. So for these, I was thinking about children's book illustrations, and I was trying to make the subjects look realistic, but at the same time have a little bit of abstract flavor. This is a large painting I've been working on for 2 years now, and the idea for this one is basically trying to get better at world building. And I got, the general concept from looking at artists like Greg Simpkins and just a bunch of other pop surrealists. And then I just wanted to try to do my version of that and make something that had an exotic feel and a fantasy feel, and almost let the world sort of unfold as I add objects to it. And I'm going to be finishing this one up hopefully this year, and just packing it full of images and symbols and things that are interesting to me. So this large painting on the left is another one that I've been working on for a few years now, and it's quite simply just a brain dump of memories from my life, especially my early childhood. And so I didn't have a solid goal for this painting other than just to paint images and memories that I had and try to just arrange them on the canvas in an interesting way. Even if they blended into each other, that sort of works, for the concept. And so as I remember things or have ideas about experiences that I've had, I just try to capture them on this canvas and sort of dump my soul. It's a very cathartic process, and I guess the ideas come from my memories, if you will. So sometimes when I'm working on one piece, like that larger piece there, something will trigger and I'll have an idea to take something from a piece like that and do a different painting. So for instance, I was painting a lot of fishing imagery in that larger piece, and I got the idea to just isolate a single lure and paint that. And I think the main reason for that is that it gives me a feeling of nostalgia. It takes me back to my childhood. It reminds me of happy times, going on fishing trips with my friends and family. And so that's the reason why I made this painting. So related, I definitely see a pattern where I am interested in and fascinated by older things, vintage things, things from my past, things even from before I was born. And, I like old posters. I like old print pieces, and I also like fantasy scenes and fantasy worlds and exotic places. And so kind of combining all those things, I got the idea to do this painting, which I started in 2022 and finished up the first week of 2023. And again, it's just a pretty simple concept, just kind of trying to paint something interesting based on some of the things that I find interesting. So as I wrap up my final thoughts here, I'm just going to show a bunch of images of random paintings that were done, for the most part, simply because I was in a mood, one way or the other, and just wanted to play around and try to express how I was feeling at the time. I hope that listening to this or seeing these paintings hopefully will give some of you some ideas about where ideas come from, how to take this type of process and hopefully apply that in your own creative work. And I'd also just like for you guys to comment and let me know if any of this makes any sense at all, or share your thoughts on where you get your ideas from and what you think is working for you. If you see any artwork in these videos that I haven't made a video about, or you'd like to know more about, please ask me specific questions in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them, and I'll also try and make longer form content to any individual pieces that you guys want to hear about. I'm doing my best to try to make quality content that connects with folks and provides some sort of either entertainment, inspiration, or education in some way, and also learn along with you guys as I'm doing this stuff myself. So thanks for joining me. Appreciate all the support so far, and look forward to hearing from you. Peace.